Oi, oi, it's your boy, Jack Slack. It's the Jack Slack podcast, and we're coming at you on Monday, the 29th of January, 2024. And it's already been a month since the end of the year, so what perfect timing for the 2023 Slacky Awards for excellence in the field of mixed martial arts. Not ideal circumstances, firstly because it's been so long since 2023, you'll have forgotten everything that happened. I know I did. But also because I'm coming off a sick bug. I was vomiting for 24 hours solid, basically, and shitting too. Not an either or thing at any point, really. But I'm a little bit low energy. So I did watch One Championship's Chuckle Fuck Emporium, where they put on some of the weirdest fights you'll ever see, saved by a banger between Superlek and Takeru, but all with this amazing undercurrent of One just fucking over their own fighters and not knowing how to run a business. Some great stuff from that. You had Sage Northcutt running away from a 40-year-old lightweight because Uriah Faber couldn't be cleared as a quarterman because they'd have to blur his chin on Japanese TV. You had Nikki Holzken nuking a 50-year-old Yoshihiro Akiyama in a round of boxing in 4-ounce gloves where they wore boots, which I really didn't expect. So poor old Akiyama went out and bought himself a nice pair of boxing boots just to get smoked. Should have got the bottoms of them sponsored. That's a classic boxing retort. Get the bottom of your boots sponsored. And some other bollocks. And Chatri topped it all off by following up this great fight by being like, Japanese fighters come to One in all our sports and they get crushed. What can I say? It's like, you're in Tokyo, mate. You're trying to set. It's like, for all of Dana White's flaws, and there are many, many of them, he doesn't do these events in like England. Have a whole card of these guys who've got the call up from Cage Warriors on short notice. And in the post-fight presser go all James Toney, all British fighters are bums. See ya in a year. So a very funny one card, but we'll do that on Wednesday, Thursday on the Boycast. But we're going to run down the 4 categories that I still do for the Slackies. I'm not going to take hours and hours doing it because I don't have the strength to. But the categories are Game Plan of the Year, Technical Turnaround, Breakout Technique, and the Butt Y Award for Piss Poor Fight IQ, which is the one that everyone wants to hear anyway. Let's go from the top. Game Plan of the Year. And I have relied on other people to remind me of all these amazing game plans because 2023 was a crazy year. You have to remember that, like, Makhachev Volkanovski 1 was in February. We'd already had a month and a half of the year. And, you know, we have Makhachev Volkanovski, we have Volkanovski Rodriguez, we've had Makhachev Volkanovski 2. You know, so much happened in the course of this year, of last year. It's bonkers. But previous winners of Game Plan of the Year Slacky are 2014, John Jones versus Glover Teixeira. 2015, RDA versus Pettis. 2016, Garbrandt versus Cruz. 2017, Namajunas versus Ioanni and Jacek 1. 2018, Leon Edwards versus Donald Cerrone. 2019, no award. Not sure why, can't remember. 2020, Holloway versus Volkanovski 2. 2021, Ngannou versus Miocic. 2022, Keita versus Chikadze. So, nominations for this. Someone said Crawford Spence. Actually, a few people did. Sorry, it's an MMA award. You know, we'll talk about this more when we get to Fighter of the Year and everyone wants to include Ngannou. But Makhachev Volkanovski 2, obviously, come out, spam the rear leg high kick, keep grabbing the collar ties, the double collar tie every time Volkanovski drops in low and look for knees. Gaethje versus Poirier 2, obviously more kicking, more outside fighting, and a much more measured pace, and a complete abandonment of the rear leg inside thigh kick, which cost him so dearly in the previous fight from Gaethje. Topuria versus Emmett, beautiful use of the shoulder roll, especially against a fighter who is so well known for his right hand, particularly his overhand right. Beautiful use of the jab and the shoulder roll to set up the shoulder roll as a platform for counter offense. I'm going to be talking about that in my whatever I write ahead of Topuria versus Volkanovski. Ghost nominated Zhang Weili for her performance against Lemos, where she draws out the wide swings, gets takedowns, and then punishes the get-up with clinch striking. He did say he's biased because that was the one that he helped Zhang Weili scout for. Few recommendations of Zhang Weili and a few recommendations of Topuria Emmett. Sandhagen versus Song, great shout. Both the use of well, Stanhagen using his usual game against Song, realizing this dude's got an iron head and he hits really, really hard and he's going to keep coming back. So using the threat of the takedown and the takedown in combination beautifully, and then using elbows against Song when he was trying to intercept him striking-wise. Because if you've got a guy with an iron head, the chances that you're eventually going to crack it with your fists aren't great in the course of a 25-minute fight. But if you elbow them, you can open up cuts, and obviously he did, and that had a big effect on the fight. I just realised Yudong versus Sandhagen was 2022, so no, not including that, sorry. I included Song versus Simone because I thought that was a really good game plan, which then Mario Batista basically copied. Use of the knee constantly up the centre to keep Simone upright and then making it much easier to hit, pressing him to the cage where he really wants to duck on your hips every time you come in, and having established the knee as a threat, he really struggles to. So he sort of becomes a sitting duck. Grasso has been included for the first Shevchenko fight. Use of the jab, use of pressure to get Shevchenko back to the fence, and actually knowing how to counter her spins and head and arm throws. Leon Edwards was recommended a lot off his second fight with Kamaru Usman. Not so much for the Covington fight, but worked on the back foot. Double attacks between inside thigh kick with the rear leg and the head kick. Lovely clinch breaks, lovely ring craft. Someone said Jared Gordon versus Marco Madsen because it was such a unique sort of fight. Marco Madsen was looking for collar ties and holding and hitting and dirty boxing all the time, and Gordon was hand fighting like it was a wrestling match. It was very interesting. And then someone said Ian Gary versus Neil Magny. Even though kicking Magny isn't exactly hard to figure out, he did it ruthlessly. Unfortunately, as we found out, it is hard to figure out because Mike Malott could not stick to it. And then two that stand out are Strickland versus Adesanya, which obviously everyone recommended, and I wrote a big piece about, which you can read on the Fight Primer. But the Strickland Izzy one is interesting because I try to avoid giving this to ones where the styles match up in a way where one style looks really good, but the guy is just doing his normal style. Because that, obviously, the way the fighting works, styles make fights. Game plans, I tend to give preference to guys who change their style to punish their opponent. You see something in the opponent, it's not normally part of your game or a big part of your game, and you bring it to the forefront and use it. So there is a bit of that with the Strickland Adesanya one because his straight hitting and dealing with straight punches is a big part of Strickland's game. And Adesanya is just sort of set up to struggle with that and the constant forward pressure and, his big left hook swing and that sort of stuff. But Strickland had trouble with low kicks from people like Jared Cannonier, and he did a great job dealing with the low kicks in this one. And there was stuff like the hand fighting, the double hands on the wrist and kicking the body, the use of teeps. There was some stuff in that fight that was specific to Adesanya and recent, and I thought that was really good. But it is kind of like that annoying Strickland style matches up very well with Adesanya, just as is. And then the other one, of course, is Dricus du Plessis versus Rob Whittaker, which is a little bit, again, it's impossible to take your style out of it altogether. The chopping the low kicks early was standard du Plessis. He likes to do that. Use of the intercepting southpaw jab worked very well. When Whittaker did come in, burst in, he'd try and catch him with his head low with uppercuts and with collar ties and knees. And the work on the mat was gorgeous. The overhook work, the keeping him down on the shoulder, the elbows and the darces, using that as a pairing. I think I'm going to give this to Zhang Weili because she did, Amanda Lemos is a genuinely dangerous fighter, and she didn't get a look in for 25 minutes. And it didn't look like she'd gassed out by round 2. She was there, she just couldn't do shit. Technical turnaround, most improved fighter. This is my baby, this award. I really like this one because many of the people I pick tend to go on to become champions. In 2017, where the 3 previous winners, Dillashaw, Namajunas, and Holloway, all became champions in about 2 months of each other. 2014, Dillashaw, 2015, Namajunas, 2016, Holloway, 2017, Whittaker, 2018, Poirier, Cejudo, Blachowicz, Tai, 2019, Gaethje, 2020, Oliveira, 2021, Moreno, 2022, Nathaniel Wood. Few interesting nominations for this. Someone said Veronica Hardy. I mean, I am impressed with how she's sort of shaping it out now. Someone said that lady who ran away from Norma Dumont. It was a very technical turnaround. A couple of nominations of Gaethje. He's already won it once, but I think his stuff has been more like, if you consider how different his game was sort of pre 2018, 2019. I gave him the award in 2019. His game used to just be running people down and kicking their legs. And it was frantic. And it was in sort of 2019 that he lost those two fights to, and it was after he lost those two fights to Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier, he took a step back and said, okay, I actually want to win. I have this God-given power. I'm one of the hardest hitters in the division. Why don't I try and fight a little bit more technically, which, his coach had been begging him to do for ages, Trevor Whitman. And that was a massive technical turnaround. I feel like his recent impressive performances against Fiziev and Poirier are just sort of building on that already existing change. The change was night and day before, and this has just been sort of like playing with the sliders. 2020, a couple of people said Jamal Hill, based off that brilliant Glover win. It was, really impressive. But then, of course, Glover is old as the hills. And I would need to see a little bit more of Jamal to say that. Someone said Eblin. I think he's just on the way up. I don't think he's really reinvented himself much. Lupe Godinez was a good shout by a few people. You're doing well. A few people actually asked for Jonathan Martinez because he's having a bit of a moment. He was always someone that I enjoyed. And I used to say, like, he's not going to get much, or he's going to have a good career and, like, he's not going to be remembered by anyone except technique nerds, because he's very good, but doesn't get finishes and doesn't really push his advantages and doesn't really try to, like, finish people. They gave him that Cub Swanson fight, sort of the same way they gave Chris Gutierrez that Frankie Edgar fight. It's like, here, get a finish. But this year he looked good against Said Nurmagomedov, and then he beat Adrian Yanez, who is the big finisher and the big name, and they wanted him to be like, the pitch was like a bantamweight Masvidal, but he was a popular guy, and Martinez not only beat him but finished him, and very convincingly. It is still sort of the stuff that he was doing, the massive low kicks, the one or two punches at a time, being able to fight off both stances pretty decently, strong clinch fighting. But aggression is a turnaround nonetheless, so I would consider it something of a turnaround for him. It's like Lyoto Machida. He went on to be like top 5 for knockdowns in the UFC, and there was a point up until up until the Thiago Silva fight, he basically stopped no one. And then he had that Thiago Silva fight as like a title eliminator, blew Thiago Silva out of the water, knocked him down like 4 times in that fight alone. And then he hit Rashad like twice and knocked him down twice. And then after that, he started to get a bit of the death touch. But before that, he was known as this really boring fighter. Some people have said Sandhagen because of his wrestling, but the wrestling improvements, I think you saw that in the Song fight, which, as we said, is 2022. A couple of people recommended Kopylov, which obviously pulls on my heartstrings because I like Kopylov. I think he's looked really good. He hasn't sort of fought... Well, he fought Duraev back in 2021 in October, and that was where he got out-wrestled. And he did land a couple of big punches, and he was getting gassed, and he had his hands on his... he was resting on his haunches and stuff. And since then, he's gone 4-0, and it's been really both entertaining and impressive because he finished all of them too. But before that, it was Kara Burson, who isn't a great wrestler. He's just sort of like an all-rounder. And Kopylov had a lot of trouble with him and obviously got finished in the 3rd round. But I think the last 4 fights out of him, I thought he looked really sensational. His kicking has always been good. His left straight's always been good. He's been training more in Dagestan, apparently. As I've said before, like, his cool thing is that he trains in Dagestan, but he doesn't make it his whole thing. He's been training with more wrestlers in light of the Duraev fight and the Kara Burson fight. And he has hurt Puna Soriano and Alessio Chiguro and Josh Fremd, and they had the chance. I mean, he knocked out Claudio Ribeiro in a 1-kick knockout, but those 3 guys had the chance to try and take him down, and he was able to stop them. He just hasn't fought someone who's come out with that as like the game plan in the same way that Duraev did and Robertson did for bits of their fight. So it is tricky. I do want to give him the award because I like him, but I'm sure there's more pronounced turnarounds. Khalil Roundtree, obviously, good shout. To actually put together those wins against like guys in the top end of the division now. I mean, we always joke about what a crap division it is, but this has been Khalil Roundtree's problem. Like, he will lose to people who you think should be worse than him. And he's kept it together. He's looked strong in the clinch, and he's done it in a way where he manages to make his clinch look whether the opponent's like entering on a double leg or a single leg or whatever, he manages to make it look like they're still doing Muay Thai with him, and he starts kneeing and elbowing the shit out of them. He's added that beautiful. I mean, his right hook was always a big part of his game, but it's looking a lot sharper. If you watched it against Jacoby, well, if you watched it against Pragneo, he just sort of swings it wide. But against Dorcas, he really does have this tight right hook. He cuts Dorcas off mid combination entry, hits him with the right hook and pivots. And he did it about 4 times to Dorcas. It was gorgeous. He's an interesting one because he brings something different to like every fight. You know, sometimes when he fought Robertson, he came out in a low squat, and then he'll come out with a light lead leg in another fight. And he does sort of change, and he finds things that he wants to work on, and he sort of transforms himself from fight to fight like a method actor taking a role. But I do think that I'm noticing really positive. I'm this close to giving this award to Khalil Roundtree. Someone said Macy Barber, actually. She's looked pretty good. I mean, it was a little while ago she last fought. When was it? Macy Barber. Yeah, it was back in June she fought Rebus. And in March she fought Andrea Lee and won the split decision. But so she fought twice last year, but stopped Rebus, and I thought she looked pretty decent against Andrea. Honestly, I just was surprised how... She's one of those ones that I talked about, like Aspen Ladd, where when she stops in her tracks and puts some stank on the punch, she gets a surprising amount of force on things, which is very rare in the women's divisions, but she'd never had like the confidence or the craft, and she was throwing these jabs from miles away, doing the ish and all that stuff. And certainly in that Rebus fight, she looked a lot more confident stepping into range and doing damage. And, you know, once you are confident just biting down on your mouthpiece and going after it, that opens up doorways for you because people buy the feints, and you don't stand there on the outside looking like a goober going ish and they're not reacting. I genuinely was very impressed with her turnaround in the last couple of fights. And then a few mentions of Patchy Mix, and again, he's a guy on the upward swing, on the upward trajectory, but his striking, to knee Ruffian Stotts in the head out of nowhere was impressive. And, you know, I think sometimes we sort of think of him as like a Shinya Aoki type, but to cut the cage on Koji Horiguchi and to corner Sergio Pettis so routinely and take advantage of it so well, that requires a degree of some of the elements of striking that people often don't consider striking, but footwork and ring craft and all that stuff, you know, for years I've been harping on about how this is striking. He does seem to have a good understanding of that in the way that a lot of guys with similarly like monstrous grappling games in MMA, but lack of knockout power and lack of knockout wins, they don't. And yeah, I genuinely am very impressed with how he's looked. I think I'm going to give this award to Khalil Roundtree. I think that's been the best thing. Well, it's one of the best things going on in MMA. Certainly one of the best things going on above 185 because, like, you know, it's a wasteland. I would love to see him continue to have the success that he's had. Breakout technique. This is a bit of a hit and miss award. I'll just warn you on the way, guys, because I realised that I'd never given it to calf kicks. But some of these things, like I was harping on about snap kicks to the body for 4 years, I think it was. And then I gave them the award in 2015 because there were a few guys landed them well. It was James Krause against Jamie Varner and shit like that. And I'm going, these are making a difference. We should really do a bit more of this. Who else did a good one? Machida used to land them well. But nowadays, that's just a given. Someone like Sean O'Malley, he would not be the same fighter if he didn't have that snap kick to the body. But then there's other things where I've just been like desperate for something to say for that year. So 2014 was the electric chair sweep because it was important in a couple of big grappling matches, and then you never saw it again. 2015, snap kicks to the body, that was a good one. 2016, Imanari roll, there were a couple of famous ones, and then nothing. In fact, an Imanari roll now is like an admission that you don't have a fucking clue what you're going to do. Because this is the year that Chris Gutierrez came out in round 5 and was like, I'm an Imanari roll. And also, Tony Ferguson's corner are still like, you should throw the Imanari from time to time. 2017 was front headlock fluidity, Darst Anaconda go behinds. This was like the rise of Brian Ortega and Tony Ferguson. 2018 was the Sulo stretch because 2 got hit in one night. And actually, they do still, there's the threat at them all the time. Drickus du Plessis almost did it to Derek Brunson. And maybe Rob Whittaker. I'm trying to think back now. 2019, I didn't do an award. Did I just not do awards in 2019? 2020 was the Poirier shift, which is where you throw your rear hand as a long straight, and then you poke it again as a jab. So you double up your rear hand, but you step through on the second one. And then you throw what is now your rear hand off that. It's Dustin Poirier's big move. He's scored so many knockdowns off it, it's ridiculous. 2021 was low single / buggy chokes, because that was what big people were doing that year. 2022 was the ninja choke. And honestly, I think this might have been a better year for the ninja choke than before. Obviously, Mayra Wene Silva slapped one on. The ninja choke's been around for a while, and the opening has sort of been there with guys putting their head in along the fence. Carlos Condit did it to Martin Kampmann in like 2013. But yeah, I mean, you saw Leon Edwards almost got Colby Covington with it. In fact, last week, which is 2024, so it doesn't count, Arnold Allen almost caught Evloev with it. It's making waves. If you're not submitting people, you're making them gator roll off you, which is obviously what you wanted in the first place. Nominations: rear cross to head kick. Everyone was saying like, oh, it's catching on. People have worked out in open guard scenarios. If you throw your rear hand, the guy will either parry with his rear hand or lean outside your rear hand and then get kicked in the head. Loads of them. There was, Oliveira on Dariush. There was, did Makachev do that to Volkanovski, or was that just a high kick? I can't remember. There were fucking loads of them. I don't know if I'd give it breakout technique of the year, but yeah, there were loads. The Yoza kick, people were saying, but obviously that again, this is a MMA thing, even though electric chair sweep in 2014 was grappling. I tried to keep this to MMA, and the main use of the Yoza kick in MMA this year was Sadiq Youssef, absolute legend for doing it. Had great success with it against Edson Barboza, and threw Edson Barboza right off. How many rear leg kicks did Edson Barboza throw? Because he was busy like trying to work out what was going on with that. In kickboxing, the Yoza kick has absolutely had a breakout year. There is not like, you cannot watch a Rise or a Crush or a K1 card without 2 or 3 lads hitting the Yoza kick, going front snap kick into the rear leg. I was watching Tiger versus Chun Li Hyung, whatever his name is. Tiger's big fight the other day. He's thrown him in there. It's just become part of the kickboxing game, like overnight. It's fantastic. But it's kickboxing. It's still not caught on in a big way in MMA. Lots of people saying the return of slams. Yeah, could go with that. Jabs against women's MMA champions. Lol. Someone said lots of deep half play this year. I saw a little bit, but I don't know if there was lots. Someone said, I feel like we're seeing more teeps, someone said. Still nowhere near enough. I mean, the teep in the Strickland Adesanya fight was a game changer. And in my pre-fight talk for Drickus versus Strickland, I was talking about how Drickus has had a lot of trouble being put on the end of front kicks. And if Strickland can use the teeps as effectively against Drickus, I worry he'll get stuck on the end of that and get tired and be up. And in the first round, the teep was giving Drickus trouble until he started parrying it at the floor and landing the low kicks off it, because he couldn't low kick him naked, because Strickland's there to check. When Strickland pokes out with a teep, he could parry it to the floor and kick it. Then Strickland stopped throwing the teep. Like from round 2 onwards, no teeps from Strickland. Someone said Mike Breeden barking like a dog against Anshul Jubilee. Someone said breakout technique, fighting in Texas on an overly tight canvas. Because that's where those 2 slams happened. Double jab, people are saying, finally being utilised. It was used a little bit by Sarukian versus Dariush, Turner versus Green, Feeney versus Almeida. There's been loads of examples this year where I've been like, double jabs, mate. The other day, I put up a clip of Ilia Topuria versus Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell's running scared of him. And then Bryce Mitchell starts throwing out like 2 or 3 jabs at a time, doubling and tripling. And Ilia Topuria starts moving his head from side to side. He's not being hit by jabs. He's not being disturbed by jabs, but he's moving his head out of the way of jabs. And then Bryce Mitchell hits him with a 1-2 and gets in on his hips and takes him down. And then he stayed on top for the rest of the round, only losing in round 2 when he went back to fighting goofily. But yeah, the double jab, really, I keep saying it, but it is so important. Even if the guy doesn't respect your power, he's going to do things to stop the jab going in his eye because he wants to see around it and hit you. Someone said Volkanovski putting his head into the fence post to complicate Makhachev's mat returns. Actually, I should have mentioned this in Game Plan of the Year because it was so opponent-specific. If you look at Makhachev and Habib, actually, when they got the back body lock along the fence, they step around the side and then they drag you to the mat, and they often do like a trip rather than the lift, and they step around the side to do it, which means that if your shoulder is to the fence, like it often is, you get dragged down. but Volkanovski was putting the top of his head into the fence and his butt directly back towards the center of the cage. And Makhachev couldn't step around the side of him effectively and drive him forward towards where his head was posted. So Makhachev tries twice in that fight to do the outside trip mat return and pulls Volkanovski down on top of him by accident. It was a tricky position because Volkanovski couldn't break the hands apart in the same way because he didn't have his hip out in front of him pressuring it. Normally you have 1 foot forward and you have your hips. You try and put the hands on your hips and stretch them apart across your hip. And obviously you can't do that if your hips are back, if you're putting your butt back into the guy. So it was a bit tricky. Like, it wasn't an answer. It was an answer to some specific stuff, but he was giving up the ability to get out as effectively. But it was a very interesting look. And then there's 2 kicks that I want to mention here, which are very, people like it when it's a technique rather than a principle, but 2 kicks that I've sort of broken out recently. Garn had I think he had 1 fight this year and it was crap. Imavov had a couple, but he did use this kick. And Leon Edwards used it against Colby Covington. When you're in an open stance matchup, so Southpaw versus Orthodox or Orthodox versus Southpaw, your lead leg front snap kick, you pick your knee up and instead of pumping it out straight, you turn at the hip so that your knee is outside of your ankle. So it's coming out like one of those inside-out kicks, one of those reverse crescent kicks that you throw to the head, which doesn't really do any damage, but you're only putting a slight bit of curve on it. And the way that it works is that it can sneak inside the opponent's knee if they pick it up. It can sneak under his hands if he's trying to parry. It just changes the angle of the kick slightly, and it works really well. And it seems to add a little bit more snap to the kick as well. And I'd noticed Imavov and Garn doing it a while ago, and then Leon Edwards was doing it against Covington, and it really was pissing him off. So the twist kick, or the inside-out front kick, whatever you want to call it. And then the other kick was, it's not caught on in a big way, but it did win a fucking title fight. So you have to consider it. Alex Pereira's inside of the shin, no shoulders, no turn, low kick, the calf kick that he does. Obviously, I did a Filthy Casuals guide to this. He holds his shoulders back. He throws his hips forward rather than rotating them. And it doesn't, it's not non-committal. It doesn't keep him safe if he misses. He still throws himself wildly out of position because he's still throwing with decent power. But all of the usual telegraph for a big round kick to the lower leg is gone. And he did it to Jiri and he did it to Adesanya even, and neither of those guys could work it out at all. It'd be very interesting, we'll probably never get the Strickland-Pereira rematch, and it would be very easy for Pereira to still just jab the body and then left hook around the outside. Because Ray Safo was doing that to, 50-year-old Ray Safo was doing that in a sparring clip with Sean Strickland the other day. He still reaches so wildly if you jab him in the body. But it would be very interesting to put Mr. Greatest Checker in the game, Sean Strickland, in against Alex Pereira. I mean, he did have some success with it even against Jan Blachowicz, who's a great checker of kicks. So I'm going to give this award to... It's going to be one of those kicks, mate, because I think it's one of those 2 kicks. It's either the inside-out / twist kick to the body, that lead leg, open stance, inside-out twist kick, that Imavov, Garn, and now Edwards do, because that's a few good guys using it very well, so it's catching on, and it was just used in a title fight too. Or it's the Pereira kick because it is clearly going, if other people start copying that, that's going to be an issue. And it was just used to basically win him a world title, because Jiri ended up running in wildly because he couldn't keep taking those kicks. I'm giving it to Pereira's inside of the shin kick. The Pereira kick, why not? And then the Buttwire Award for piss poor fight IQ. 2014, Ali Bagautinov standing with his back to the fence against DJ for 5 rounds or whatever it was. 2015, Tim Boich running straight at Dan Henderson and giving him the only fight that he could win at that point. 2016, Ryan Bader diving after a single leg at Rumble immediately and getting flattened out. 2017, Rumble versus DC. You remember that mess. 2018, Cody Garbrandt, I believe, versus TJ Dillashaw twice, but I haven't put what happened there. 2019, obviously no award. 2020, Matt Wyman jumping guard on Jordan Levitt and getting slammed on the back of his head. 2021, Sylvester Miller. Oh, I love this one. In Cage Warriors. Headbutting a guy through 4 warnings and then continuing and getting DQ'd. And 2022, Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira, reaching for the jabs, reaching down for body jabs and all the jabs from the greatest left hooker in the sport. Now, this is a crazy one because the technical turnaround is normally the one that sort of predicts champions or they go on to be champions. And I go, oh, prestigious winner of the Slacky for technical turnaround. But Sean Strickland went from the Buttwire Award for Piss Poor Fight IQ last year to winning the world title this year, or in 2023. But anyway, the nominations: Valentina Shevchenko spinning versus Grasso, and also Valentina Shevchenko almost winning the rematch and then trying a crap head and arm throw and ending up losing it again. She can't stop herself. She's like, I've got to do the stupid ladies throw. Colby versus Leon Edwards, people said, did he have a game plan or had he just fucked it at that point? Did he just not have the juice anymore? And he talked himself into a big fight, and he got paid either way. I don't think he felt like he was going to win. Chris Gutierrez, people said, for doing the Imanari role, but also for just fouling and running the whole fight as well. Jacoby, kickboxer shooting in the last couple of minutes against hurt fighters when he's down on the scorecards. Did it against Mirzakhanov and Menefield. Oh, I do like Dustin Jacoby too, so that was frustrating. Daniel Lacerda chasing after Vergara like a madman. No, Daniel Lacerda is always this. Daniel Lacerda is the flyweight who fights like a heavyweight. He has one round in him and then he loses. People saying the UFC not signing Cedric Doumbé, very funny, but obviously not that. Someone said Trevor Peek not fighting like Trevor Peek in his last showing. Cody Brundage jumping the guillotine on Rodolfo Vieira. Yeah, that was a sus one. Volkanovski not jamming a southpaw. Not gonna hold that against him. Garn for having the worst performance ever. Lots of people said Garn because he bounced around a little bit and then he stood still and threw his rear hand as hard as he could against a guy who wanted to take him down. Got drawn into the easiest takedown that you've ever seen, which was very disheartening for a guy that you were like, what an elusive heavyweight. No one moves like him at heavyweight. Or at least I was. Aljo deciding to strike with Sugar Sean, someone said. Oh, Jack Della Maddalena jumping a bunch of gillies. Yes. In a fight where he was winning on the feet very easily and almost losing to a short notice UFC debutant. I love Jack Della Maddalena. He is a boy of the podcast. But yeah, jumping gillies generally. And in fact, there's a couple of jumping gillies in this included. Dricus du Plessis did it to... Oh no, Brunson did it to Dricus du Plessis. Ended up getting beaten up from or on the bottom because of it. This was the year where Kron Gracie and Claudio Pulis did butt scooting performances in the UFC. Someone said Buttwire should go to Patricio Pitbull for going down a weight class and losing all his positive traits. That wasn't that bad. It was the going up 2 weight classes 3 weeks later to save the Bellator Rising card. So dumb. He went and fought Chihiro Suzuki. So now Chihiro Suzuki has this awesome knockout on his record over a guy who was like rehydrating from the biggest weight cut of his life and also had just been wobbled by Sergio Pettis like 3 weeks earlier. Mental. But fighters do that. They're like, I've just got to get one back in the win column. The Marlon Moraes gambler's fallacy. Ji-Yeon Kim getting mad at the bum she's fighting and easily beating and then fouling herself out of the UFC. This was brilliant. Ji-Yeon Kim had the... heads up, this one's probably winning, but Ji-Yeon Kim had a really poor UFC career. She started with a loss and then 2 wins. Fair enough. Both the wins were split decisions. Fair enough. Happens. She loses to Antonina Shevchenko, who's crap, having missed weight. She knocks out Nadia Kassem in that fight where she tried to hit her off the glove touch or whatever it was. But also, again, missed weight. Then she went on a 5-fight losing streak, culminating in this fight. In this fight against Mandy Boom, she kicked the girl in the chest after the bell in round 2 and was like, oh, I didn't mean to, and got her point deducted. And then in round 3, she's ragdolling this girl around. She's got a back body lock. Mandy Boom's got her hands on the mat and knees her in the head. And she was well on her way to winning the fight. But because it was a technical decision based on like the 2 rounds that had happened up to that point, she lost a technical split decision. But there is slightly more to it. She hopped on the old Instagram afterwards and she posted, Hey Mandy, learn how to fight first and come back talking, you lil Oscar hunting bitch. The difference between you and me is I never quit in all my 30 plus professional fight career. Unlike you, you have no legacy or honor. You have made yourself a forever dirtbag for quitting. She continues. I fought you with one knee, block caps, with a completely torn ACL for our first meeting till the second camp. You knew this injury and you were more than aware. You tried to use this to your advantage, but you still couldn't, Mandy. I didn't even go home to fix my knee, nor pulled out, unlike you, unprofessional coward. Every punch I landed in your face, you crumbled and panicked. I saw this in your face, and something you know to yourself, you disgraceful bitch. I'd rather die inside that octagon rather than to quit like you and forever be remembered as a quitter. Please have some shame in your legacy and name. Forget about what others think. You know it to yourself. You quit that night. The knee barely touched you, glazed off your shoulder, but you knew you had to make an act and contest for the win. You came into this fight thinking you can out-grapple me all 3 rounds, but when you found out the hard way you can't, you panicked and looked for a way out. After losing, classic MMA misspelling, all 3 rounds, you took your shot and went running for an act, hoping and praying that you can get a win, you pathetic bitch. That's the best term I can call a little bitch. You put not only your team to shame, but your entire nation of Germany. Your country doesn't need bitches like you. Say this to my face when we meet again. I guarantee I will drill a hole in your face. And then she ats her. There was some backstory because Kim missed her grandmother's funeral because Bomb pulled out of the first fight and then turned down a second rescheduling or something and went on to vacation. It was all very silly. The point is, she did have this girl on all fours and kneed her in the head. And it's like, at that point, you've lost all... Like, you could keep being like, oh, it barely touched you or whatever. You cheated. You got caught cheating and you let them take it from you. And it wasn't even a DQ. She lost the technical decision because she had a point deducted for kicking her after the bell. Someone went on with the Brundage thing. A, jumping the Gilly versus Rodolfo Vieira. B, doing a long-ass post about how he will learn from it. And C, fighting bad fighter Cedric Dumas and jumping the Gilly in every round. And losing because of it. Worth mentioning Tony Ferguson training with David Goggins as a but why. I mean, it's not an in-fight decision, but how stupid can you be to do that? Like, if you already have bad knees, why are you hanging out with a guy whose whole thing is making you run until you're sick? And then, wouldn't you know it, it came out this week that Tony Ferguson had an MCL injury in camp. Someone said Abus's all-in versus Strickland. I'm afraid not, because he doesn't have anything else. He's a one-round fighter. So yeah, that award is going to Ji-Yun Kim. Hilarious fight. Go check it out. And that is the Slackies for 2023 wound up. I'm your boy Jack Slack. I'll be back midweek for the Boycast to talk about the stuff that happened on the one event and to talk about the upcoming UFC event this weekend. You know where to find all my stuff, fightprimer.com and the Patreon. Catch you then. Forget about what others think, praying that you get a win like a pathetic bitch, but that's the best term I can call you, a little bitch. Bless.